Good afternoon and welcome to the Africa Heritage Diaspora Television, still the ultimate voice for Africans in the diaspora. My name is Prince Tunde Adetunji. Towards greater unity and integration through shared values, that was the declaration of the 16th summit of the African Union just ended in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Of course, leaders of the world signed a good note that Africa is on course and Africa is the ultimate and Africa is the future. You will see the speech of Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, the speech of the President of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, and all the speech of all the executives of the African Union, including the chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Jinping, as well as the outgoing chairman of the African Union, and that is the president of Malawi. They all came with one unique theme that Africa matters and Africa is the future. With this, we are grateful to Almighty God that Africa has arrived. From what we have seen that transpired this year, there's a lot to accomplish in terms of Africa, redesign its status quo, Africa potential, Africa technology, Africa education, and everything that needs to be for the world that shows that Africa has a role to play in the global economy. Thank you for watching. You could see from the speeches that they have rendered that there is a value for what we actually accomplished this year. Enjoy the speech.
Africa is the world's fastest growing market in communications technology. It has abundant natural resources, and it is ideally placed to pioneer a new green economy. African countries with their abundant solar, wind, and geothermal resources can become important users and exporters of clean energy. This is the way of the future, and Africa's government and business partners can pave the way. Distinguished heads of state and government, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our planet is under growing strain. We need a practical 21st century model of development that connects all the dots between poverty, eradication, climate change, food, water, and energy. Last year, I established a high-level panel on global sustainability to get into these issues broader and more comprehensive way that is being co-chaired by President Zuma of South Africa and President Halonen of Finland. I'm confident that its deliberations will inform the ongoing climate negotiations. The progress in Cancun makes me optimistic for this year's climate conference in Durban, South Africa. I urge all governments here in Africa and in all regions to strengthen national efforts to reduce emissions and strengthen climate resilience. Excellencies, Africa's challenges remain great, yet I see clearer skies ahead. The credit for this resides with you, the member states of the African Union. From the due partnership of Africa's development to the African peace and security architecture and the African standby force, you are working increasingly effectively for economic development and political stability. The Charter of the United Nations, of which you are all signatories, and the Constitutive Act of the African Union share the same principles and goals and values: peace, security, stability, human rights, good governance, and the rule of law, dignity and economic development, social progress, and the better standards of life in larger freedom. Let us work together to realize these shared values and fulfill those ambitious goals. I'm here to say to all of you distinguished heads of state and government that the United Nations will remain your steadfast partner. Together, we can make this world a better world for all. Thank you very much for your leadership.
I thank His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, for his statement. I now invite His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his statement.
President Mutharika, Chairperson of the African Union, distinguished heads of state and government of African Union, Prime Minister Meles Zenawi of Ethiopia, President Nicolas Sarkozy of France, President of the United Nations General Assembly, Joseph Thais, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Zhang Ping, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. We gather at this summit to draw strength in unity, to confront common challenges, and to heed the voice of the people of Africa who are insisting on more peace and development and democracy and greater opportunity for themselves and their families. I have seen that potential in every corner of this great continent. And since we met last year, so too has the world. The FIFA World Cup in South Africa proved that the real winner was not any team. On events unfolding on the continent's north, west, and east. Yesterday, I co-chaired a meeting with the African Union and ECOWAS on the volatile situation in Côte d'Ivoire. We must remain firm and unified. I commend African Union Peace and Security Council for its resolute stand and welcome its decision to create a high-level panel to find an urgent solution. As we look ahead, there are 5 principles that should guide our work. Respecting the clear result of the elections, a national unity, government formed by President Ouattara, removing all obstructions to the work of the United Nations, full support for the legitimate government in addressing social and economic challenges and upholding human rights and justice. And finally, close coordination between the panel and the United Nations. The action we will take will have an impact not only on the credibility of our organizations, but also on other democratic transition and elections in divided societies. Please allow me to express my gratitude to all the peacekeepers and staff of the United Nations who have been working tirelessly under difficult and very dangerous situations. And I'd like to express my most sincere gratitude to member states who have been providing troops to the United Nations peacekeeping operations. In Sudan, the peaceful and credible conduct of the referendum is a credit to all the parties, the government of Sudan and Southern Sudan, the African Union, the United Nations, and all international community partners, and above all, the Sudanese people. The CPA parties have much to address in the coming months. We are still very much concerned about the post-referendum issues: border security, citizenship, wealth sharing, demarcation of the borders, popular consultations in South Kordofan and Blue Nile states, and most importantly, the status of Abyei. Consolidating the peace in North and South Sudan will require statesmanship, wisdom, patience, and consistent engagement and support of the international community. It will also depend to a large extent on peace and security in Darfur. I call on all parties to recommit themselves to finding a peaceful solution to the conflict. The people of Darfur are desperate to return to their homes and build a future for their children. In Somalia, I will continue to urge greater support for the transitional federal government and the UN-backed African Union mission. This includes 4,000 additional troops for AMISOM and adequate technical, logistical, and financial support. We must use the next few months to build on recent successes and ensure that the transition in August lays a foundation for stability and progress. We must also do more to confront the growing threat of piracy. My special advisor on piracy has presented me with the ways to end impunity, and we will confer with African and other partners, including the Security Council, on how those may be implemented. Let us also continue working closely together to facilitate the transition to constitutional order in Niger, and as we celebrate the peaceful democratic transition in Guinea. And in Tunisia, let us support the swift establishment of an inclusive interim government that will work with all of society to restore peace and stability. We at the United Nations will be pleased to help the people of Tunisia freely choose their leaders through timely and credible elections. With respect to Egypt, I once again make a call for restraint, nonviolence, and respect for fundamental freedoms and human rights. And around the world, the leaders and we must listen attentively, more attentively, and more sincerely to the voice of the people, their aspirations, their challenges, their hopes for a better future. Distinguished chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le vent de l'histoire souffle.
The winds of history are blowing all over Africa. All over in Africa, people are being liberated. Africa is on the move. The African continent.
On a longue période de croissance. Et même la crise économique et financière ne vous ont pas retardé dans votre marche. L'Afrique connaît un relèvement plus vigoureux et plus rapide qu'on le croyait. En effet, si les pays qui connaissent la croissance la plus rapide au monde sont des pays subsahariens, la proportion d'Africains vivant dans l'extrême pauvreté diminue malgré un accroissement continu de la population. Nous marquons des points dans la lutte contre le sida et le paludisme et sommes sur le point d'éliminer complètement le polio du continent africain. La scolarisation primaire augmente. Les filles ont plus largement accès à l'école.
And many more people have access to primary school education. as partners of Africa, our task is to preserve this forward march this year. How are we going to proceed? By honoring the promises of the founding fathers and by living up to the values that we do share, and by focusing more especially on 3 areas: gender, the youth, and the private sector. Firstly, the African women. The emancipation of women is not just a question of law or justice. It is a development imperative and economic imperative.
Merci pour votre soutien.
I thank you for your support.
Les pays où il existe une meilleure parité entre les
we
sexes
have a better equality amongst the sexes, are more competitive and experience higher growth. The presidency of President Salif Johnson is the only African woman head of state. Let us look at the example given by Rwanda, where we have many more women in parliament than men. Let us honor the African women peasants who produce the greater part of food commodities and foodstuffs, and we must protect these women from the threat of violence. This is violence at the home, sexual abuse perpetrated on young girls, and many other crimes that cannot be justified against women. Crimes that we do usually invoke by putting forward traditions and other values. All of these should be prosecuted, and we should do everything to prevent all these crimes. Women also are suffering in a disproportionate manner on the various ills that confront Africa. Sexual violence is used as a destructive and cruel weapon, not only against women, but also against entire communities on the African continent. This propagates fear not only amongst women, but also within the entire population. We must oppose such crimes. At the beginning of the Decade for African Women, which coincides to the 10th anniversary of Resolution 1320 of the Security Council, we have to have women participate in conflict resolution and also in the peace process. We must ensure that they enjoy health. The United Nations is doing everything possible to strengthen its activities in all of these areas by establishing UN Women. And the executive director is Mrs. Michelle Bachelet, who was the former president, who is here present at this assembly.
Excellencies, second, the youth of Africa. If Africa's young people are nurtured, they will help countries to achieve greatness. But if their ambitions are stifled, we risk a harvest of unrest and instability. Jobs is a central issue. No jobs means no development and no stability. But Africa's young adults also want education, and they do want respect for human rights. They want to say in how they are governed. They want freedoms and opportunities. This brings me to my third point, partnerships with the private sector. Development depends in large part on productive enterprises and vibrant trade. Businesses throughout Africa and the world are poised to make the most of Africa's barely tapped potential. My MDG Advocate Group, co-chaired by President Kagame, are working hard with governments and the private sector to help achieve development.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite His Excellency Dr. Jean Ping, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement.
Monsieur le Président de la République du Malawi, Président de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le Président de la République française, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames les premières dames d'Afrique, Monsieur le Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Monsieur le Président de la 65e Assemblée générale des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants du corps diplomatique et des organisations internationales, honorables invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. Permettez-moi en tout premier lieu de saluer respectivement cette auguste assemblée et de renouveler à chacun et à chacune ici présent mes chaleureux souhaits de bienvenue ainsi que mes vœux les meilleurs pour la nouvelle année qui vient de commencer. Je voudrais ensuite remercier sincèrement le gouvernement et le peuple éthiopien pour les efforts qu'ils ont prodigués pour assurer, comme à l'accoutumée, les meilleures conditions possibles à la tenue de nos assises. Je tiens particulièrement à souhaiter à mon tour la bienvenue à notre invité d'honneur, le président Nicolas Sarkozy, président de la République française et président du G20 et du G8, qui nous fait l'honneur de prendre part à notre sommet. Nous l'écouterons avec beaucoup d'intérêt et d'attention lorsqu'il prendra la parole tout à l'heure. Je suis tout autant heureux de souhaiter la bienvenue à tous nos autres hôtes et invités de marque qui nous font l'amitié de rehausser de leur présence nos sommets. Étant très nombreux, ils me pardonneront si je ne les nomme pas tous. Je citerai toutefois M. Ban Ki-moon, secrétaire général des Nations Unies, M. Joseph Days, président de la 65e session de l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies, M. Ben Ali, le vice-secrétaire général de la Ligue des États arabes, et le ministre représentant, M. Mahmoud Abbas, président de l'autorité palestinienne, ainsi que Mme Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, directrice générale de la Banque mondiale. Je voudrais aussi saisir cette même occasion pour réitérer mes félicitations et mes vœux aux chefs d'État à qui leurs peuples respectifs viennent d'accorder ou renouveler leur confiance au cours de la période sous examen. Son Excellence, M. Paul Kagame, président de la République du Rwanda, Son Excellence, M. Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, président de la République unie de Tanzanie, Son Excellence, M. Blaise Compaoré, président du Burkina Faso, Son Excellence, M. Ikilulu Doyin, nouveau président de l'Union des Comores, et Son Excellence, M. Alpha Condé, nouveau président de la République de Guinée. S'agissant de la Guinée, qu'il me soit permis de rendre un hommage appuyé à ce pays qui a su organiser, dans un court délai et sans accroc majeur, après 52 ans d'indépendance, une élection présidentielle libre et transparente remportée par le professeur Alpha Condé, surnommé l'opposant historique. Je lui souhaite à mon tour la bienvenue et lui renouvelle mes chaleureuses félicitations. Je voudrais également saluer l'attitude exemplaire de son concurrent, M. Cellou Dalein Diallo, qui a reconnu la victoire de son adversaire. Je souhaite donc au président Alpha Condé plein succès dans la lourde tâche qu'il attend, et bon vent à la Guinée. Monsieur le Président, un incendie s'éteignait à Guinée, un autre s'allumait en Côte d'Ivoire, tandis que la Tunisie s'embrasait. Comme vous pouvez le constater, la période sous examen a été marquée par des avancées significatives dans certaines situations, des impasses préoccupantes et des troubles graves dans d'autres. Chacun sait combien l'Union africaine a soutenu le processus électoral en Côte d'Ivoire. Les résultats de la consultation électorale de novembre 2010 n'ont malheureusement pas débouché sur la célébration de la démocratie et de la paix et la sortie de crise tant attendue. En effet, bien que M. Alassane Ouattara ait été reconnu vainqueur des élections par la communauté internationale, ces résultats n'ont pas été acceptés par toutes les parties. D'où la situation bloquée que nous vivons et que nous déplorons tous aujourd'hui. Cette situation a fait l'objet d'un compte-rendu détaillé dans mon rapport d'activité, ainsi que d'un sommet spécial du Conseil de paix et de sécurité tenu ici même, il y a 2 jours. Ce sommet spécial a été d'une importance essentielle pour les perspectives d'une solution pacifique à la crise. Ce sommet a en effet consolidé l'unité de l'Afrique quant à l'objectif et aux voies et moyens d'une telle solution. Un groupe de haut niveau, comprenant des chefs d'État de nos 5 régions, ainsi que les présidents des commissions de l'UA et de la CEDEAO, assisté d'une équipe d'experts, a été constitué pour amener les parties ivoiriennes à se hisser au diapason de leurs responsabilités historiques et pour faire prévaloir dans leur pays la démocratie en même temps que la paix. J'ai également suivi de très près la situation en Tunisie, où après plusieurs semaines de manifestations populaires, le président Zine El Abidine Ben Ali a quitté le pouvoir le 14 janvier 2011. La Commission espère que les mesures politiques récemment prises permettront aux acteurs politiques tunisiens de mener à bien une transition démocratique et pacifique, culminant avec l'organisation d'élections régulières et transparentes qui permettront au peuple tunisien de choisir librement ses dirigeants. Toujours dans le nord de l'Afrique, l'Égypte vit une situation que la Commission suit avec la plus grande attention. Monsieur le Président, je suis heureux de soumettre à l'Assemblée mon rapport couvrant la période allant de juillet à décembre 2010, rapport qui en est à sa 6e édition depuis que je suis à la tête de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Ce rapport, publié sous la cote EX.CL/621 Romain 18, a été mis depuis quelques semaines déjà à votre disposition. Il a pour objet de rendre compte de manière exhaustive des activités importantes menées par la Commission depuis la tenue des dernières assises du sommet de Kampala de juillet 2010. Cette période sous examen a été caractérisée par la poursuite des efforts en vue de la promotion de la paix et de la sécurité, de l'instauration de l'état de droit, du respect de l'ordre constitutionnel. Faut-il rappeler que l'année 2010 a été consacrée année de la paix et de la sécurité en Afrique. Mon rapport rend amplement compte de la situation aux Comores, au Burundi.
The African Heritage Diaspora Television is on course and is making its debut in every aspect of broadcasting. It became the audacity of broadcasting in the diaspora and has really shown that we are going places. We want you to keep on watching and keep us giving us the feedback of this excellent broadcast that come from the city of Atlanta. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.